Hello, my name is Leroy Blevins. Welcome to Mysteries and Histories. In this episode here, what I want to do is I want to talk about the dispute in my JFK assassination research. Now, I've been getting emails from people and people's leaving comments, and they ask me questions on has anybody ever tried to dispute my findings in my research into the JFK assassination. And some people ask me, has anybody ever tried to dispute the two gunmen inside shelter number 3? And, I can, email them back, whatever, but I figure I'll just go ahead and make a video on this and explain this. So if anybody else comes up through in the future, has a question about it, they can always watch this video and then, they can see. Yes, there has been people that has tried to dispute my findings, okay, just like the gunman inside shelter number 3. People's claim, well, I don't see it, okay, but this is from people that follows other researchers, okay. They're still believing in Oswald as a lone assassin, or there was only 3 shots fired that day, or they're following somebody else's research and stuff. However, when it comes to top JFK researchers that we hear about all the time, like Robert Groden or Jim Myers or any the top guys, no, they don't dispute me, because how can you dispute something that's fact? Okay, now for years, as I point out, they tell us that it was a gunman behind the picket fence area. However, the only thing they have is either testimonies or that's it. They have nothing else to show. But when I show my evidence, I show gunmen in that location. I show them firing from that location. So how can you dispute on what can be seen? Now, you can dispute on what's told, or you can dispute a theory, but you cannot dispute on what can be seen. All right? Just like people sit there and they come to me and says, well, the Zapruder film's altered, so how can you believe anything from the Zapruder film? Okay, let's look at that for a moment. Say the Zapruder film was altered, okay, and they said any information you pull from there you can't use. All right, well, let's look at this. This is the Mormon photo. This is the Mormon photo. Not Zapruder film, because no one's talking about the Mormon photo being altered, or the Orville Nix film being altered, or the Bronze film being altered. They're always talking about the Zapruder film being altered. But let's look at this for a moment. What does the Mormon photo shows us? It shows us 2 gunmen inside of shelter number 3 with rifles in their hand. Now we're going to look at the Orville Nix film. The Orville Nix film shows a shot being fired from this window right here of the shelter. And then also in the Orville Nix film, a shot's being fired from the side of the shelter, which we can see right here. All right, now this is not the Zapruder film now. The Zapruder film only shows us where the bullets made contact with. Okay, so if they want to eliminate the Zapruder film, they said, well, you can't pull no information from the Zapruder film. I'm not showing the Zapruder film showing the gunman. Only one gunman I'm finding in the Zapruder film. That's the gunman on the rooftop of the county records building. But there's other evidence to show these locations of these gunmen, just like I showed you there. There's the Mary Mormon photo. It shows 2 gunmen with rifles in their hands. Then we have the Orville Nix film that shows 2 shots being fired from that window in the side of the shelter. We have also other photographic evidence from other films and stuff shown from the Bronson film, showing 2 shots over. See, all these images and films was never altered. It's just the Zapruder film they keep on pointing out. So see, they can't dispute it. They can't dispute my findings. Just like when I sit there and I show from the Zapruder film now, I show a shot striking here, bullet retrieved right here, and then another shot right here. This is actually the first shot to the manhole cover concrete. And then we have the one here, and then we have the other that was seen in the Zapruder film. But we eliminate the Zapruder film again. And what we still have, people don't understand that, we still have the photographic evidence, as you see one of them right here, of a Secret Service agent bending down to pick up a bullet that he's retrieving in the grass, which he found right in this location here. And we also have this image right here that shows, and also still today, both bullet holes still can be seen. So it doesn't really have to be the Zapruder film, okay, to give us information. It's other information as well. They can't dispute it, because if they try to dispute it, you're disputing against something that you can see, okay? They can't do that. There's a lot of people out there, just like a lot of top researchers. Instead of trying to dispute me, okay, they're not going to mention nothing about me. But there is people out there that does use my information and does use my research. Just like this one here. Does anybody know who this is? This guy right here. Okay, this is Jack O'Halloran. O'Halloran. Okay. This guy, you probably don't recognize him there, but you might recognize him here. He's actually from Superman. This is him right here. He's from Superman, but he's also an ex-boxer from the 60s and 70s. Now, if you ever go look at videos and stuff, you'll see Buzzsaw, okay, in her video, as you see here. He's explaining that Mr. Zapruder is standing on there and they're holding him up, and there's shots being fired all around him, and there's 13 shots, and he specifically said there was 13 shots fired that day, which he got from my research, because if you listen to his story, he takes pieces from everybody else's research and putting in his own story, plus a little bit that he added in there as well. But that's what he's doing. He's taking pieces from everybody else's research and putting it in. He's going to sit there and say, hey, there was 13 shots fired that day. And then the guy with him sitting there saying, well, yeah, you can't dispute that. You can't dispute there was 13 shots fired that day. I'm the only researcher who came out with exactly 13 shots. Now there's researchers out there that change the story from 6 shots to 5 shots, 4 shots. Now they're claiming anywhere from 12 to 14 shots now, because top researchers know. Top researchers know they can't dispute facts. You can't dispute facts. But people want to keep on continuing on throwing stuff at me saying, no, you know, what you're showing is not fact. What you're showing is a theory. Okay. Or one thing or another, you know. But you can't dispute facts that you can see and everything else. Just like when I sit there and when I found these, okay, they're sitting talking about Oswald. Okay. There was no evidence showing Oswald on the 6th floor at that time, but you know, there's boxes and stuff, but they said they took that to the morgue and got Oswald's prints. But here is a bullet casing that has Oswald's right thumbprint on it. No one knew this print was on there. This discovery was made just a few years ago by me and Guy Cooper. When I present this evidence, and top JFK researchers now, when I present this evidence and I say, we see the fingerprint there, that's Oswald's right thumbprint, and I show the print of Oswald, and I showed overlaid and everything else, what do you think they tell me? Well, we can't dispute that. That's what they told me on the phone. We can't dispute that. It is a fingerprint, and yes, it is Oswald's fingerprint. Okay, but then they come up with the story of, oh, what was placed on her at the morgue after the assassination. And after Oswald was killed, they took it to the morgue. If they took it to this bullet casing to the morgue and placed Oswald's thumbprint on it, one, wouldn't you think that they would have used this as evidence years ago and this would have been shown years ago? No, it wasn't. The reason why it wasn't shown, because no one's never even knew about it. Just like when people says they show this fact of, well, Oswald was fingerprinted, okay, at the morgue. This is true. He was fingerprinted. But they used ink, okay? Now, when you look at the boxes and stuff, how they put Oswald's prints on the boxes and everything else, when they're sitting there using ink as their evidence of Oswald having ink on his hands and on his feet. They're using that as evidence. Now, when we look at the evidence on the boxes and everything else, you know, where they found the prints and stuff, there's no ink stains. There's no ink marks. If they was using the boxes and placing Oswald's prints on it, as they want to portray at the morgue, why ain't the prints in ink? And how come the prints was found before he was assassinated? So see, because no one answered these questions, no one's going to bring up these questions, okay, but they want to continue on. So what they do is they keep their mouths shut, when new evidence is presented, okay, if it has anything to do with Oswald being a part of assassination, but they're going to say Oswald was a patsy, they're not going to say nothing about it. They're not going to dispute my research, because if they dispute my research, let's take this for an example. Say they dispute the gunman inside of shelter number 3 where the fatal headshot came from. I said the fatal headshot came from shelter number 3. Came from the gunman that's inside the shelter. He took that shot through the window, okay, of that shelter. Now, let's say they tried to dispute me. And they said, no, the shot came from Grassy Knoll. I mean, from behind the picket fence area. All right, I can come back to them and say, show me the evidence. You said the shot came from behind the picket fence area. Show me. Well, they're going to say, well, in this Pruder film, he went back and then he went to the left. And then I point out, because I know they all see my research. They all see my research because they all contacted me. They know I will sit there and say, well, no, in this Pruder film, we see him going to the left. Not back and to the left. He was going to his left, which is being pushed off from the right side. Okay? They know this. And honestly, just like one researcher from InfoWars, I think everybody heard of InfoWars, Alex Jones and stuff, contacted me because he was very interested in findings I found of the gunman on the rooftop of the county records building. Okay, but he tries to tell me his story. The shot came from here in the Daltex building and all this other stuff. He says there's evidence to back it up. I heard the stories. I looked over their so-called evidence. There's no evidence out there. When we view the films and images and everything else, and placing gunmen in these certain locations doesn't make no sense. But anyway, they know if they try to dispute me, I can come back to them. I say, no, wait a minute. What about this? What about that? Just like then, if they say, well, we was talking about the gunman behind the picket fence area, they're going to say, well, I can't show you no images of that shot or them gunmen, but I could tell you the story, or I can give you a testimony. But no, that's not telling the story. That's not, a story is a story. That's it. A story is a theory. That's what they're working with, theory. Then I'll sit there and I'll pull this out like this. Boom. Here's the facts. Okay, I show a gunman right here inside of shelter number 3. We can see this in the Mormon photo. We can see 2 shots being fired from the window, one from the window here and one from the side of shelter. How can we tell this? Because we have the Orville Nix film that shows 2 shots come from this location. We have the Bronson film showing this 2 shots come from this location. We have the Darnell film, which shows a side view that shows the gunman still aiming his rifle from his right side. So we're going to line these frames up where these shots occurred, and we're going to see it lines up with frame 313 and frame 330 of the Zapruder film. We look at the frame 313 of the Orville Nix film, of the Zapruder film, well, we're going to see JFK's head erupted open. When we look at frame 330 of Zapruder film, what we're going to see the bullet impacting Governor Connolly's back as he's turned off to his left, and he falls down to his wife's lap. Now, we're also going to point out the fact of his story. Governor Connolly says he was looking off to the right, and he heard the first shot. That was the fatal headshot, because remember, it's close range. As you see, JFK's limo's here. This is close range. Then he's turning around to his left, and then he heard the second shot, and then he felt the blow in his back, and then he goes in his wife's lap. This is what we see from frame 315 on frame 330. What do we see? We see him turning off to his right, his left, as he says. We hear this, we got the second shot going off. Then we see the impact of the bullet into his back, and where does it go to? In his wife's lap. So his story corroborates with our findings. So see, his story matches what we see. We have Mr. Zapruder in his first testimony says the assassin was right behind him. We see Mr. Zapruder and them standing here. What's right behind him? Shelter number 3. We have the Newmans was standing right here. They said the shots came from directly behind him. What's directly behind him? Shelter number 3. The picket fence area is over to their right, way far off to the right. So see, now I can sit there and say, I have testimonies too that backs up my location. Plus, I'm also showing photographic evidence, showing them with rifles in their hands, aiming the rifles from that location, and firing them rifles from the locations, and pinpointing exactly where them shots made contact with. So see, I'm showing it from all different angles. So how can they dispute that? They won't dispute it, because another reason they won't even want to talk about me, because if they try to dispute me and my research, then people out there is going to know who I am. And they want to keep it under wraps, so they want nobody to know who Leroy Blevins is. They don't want nobody to see any of this information, because if they see this information, they're going to know, 1, there was a conspiracy that day. 2, they're going to know there was 5 gunmen there that day. 3, they're going to know there was 13 shots fired that day. 4, they're going to know JFK was shot 4 times. 5, they're going to know Governor Connally was shot 2 times. 6, they're going to know there was distraction shots taken. And it goes on and on and on and on. This is what people will know now. People know this truth. Like I said, I've talked to all the top JFK researchers. They cannot dispute anything I say because of I have photographic evidence, something that they don't have. Okay, all they have is a testimony or a story. That's all they can tell you. They'll show you certain images and stuff like that, but they can't show you facts. Okay, just like when I point out this right here, we see a bullet strike and hit the side of the concrete in the manhole cover and a piece of concrete flying up in the Zapruder film. This is backed up by the hole right here. We see the bullet hole right here in the concrete of the side where this exact bullet struck. So we see the bullet strike in there. And we can go to manhole cover, excuse me. We go to manhole cover and we see that bullet hole, right? Same as this one right here. In this Zapruder film, we see a bullet strike in the top corner of the concrete manhole cover, a piece of concrete flying upward. And over today, we can go to that concrete and see that bullet hole right here. This is where that bullet hole is right here. That bullet hit ricocheted upward, which we see in frame 402 of the Zapruder film. Now to be this one right here. Frame right here. The bullet ricocheting up. It strikes here and then ricochets upward. And it lands in a grass area where the Secret Service agents pick up that bullet because we see the bullet lying in the grass. Now he's picking up that bullet. So see, everything's fitting in. Everything's lining up. So see, they can't dispute that. Then we can say, well, let's go to manhole cover today. I want to show you both bullet holes in that manhole cover, the concrete. And I'm going to them and you can prod them and everything else. What are they going to dispute? They can't dispute it because now, if you notice and you hear the old stories, but you hear now they're talking about this bullet hole right here. Watch my cursor. Now, even people in Dealey Plaza, when they're telling their story, they're going to sit there and start pointing this out now. Now, years ago, they never even talked about the manhole cover or the shots or anything. But now you got your top JFK researchers and the people that's around Dealey Plaza talking to people and everything else. They're going to talk about this shot now. Why? Why they're talking about this shot now? Because I've already brought this evidence out. They know a shot occurred there. So see, they all believe my research. This is a fact. They all believe my research. They all know my research. But they're not going to tell you about my research because if they tell you about my research or if they dispute my research, they're going to have to be telling everybody else that, hey, he was right and I was wrong. Hey, when it comes to research, if I'm wrong about something, I'll admit it. I'll be the first one to admit it. But see, when you're doing research, you can't take that chance. You have to go thoroughly. That's why when if you watch my one video where I said the process that I go through, okay, I went through a bunch of process before I even brought this information out of the 2 gunmen inside shelter number 3. And that goes for every other thing that I found. It's a long, slow process. And I want to make sure there's evidence after evidence after evidence after evidence that we can see, as you see right here. I want to make this video here because, people's been asking me that question. Was people trying to dispute your research? Or why don't they dispute your research and stuff? Because they can't. There's people out there that follows other researchers. They'll try to dispute my research. They'll try to say, well, I don't understand because none of your stuff fits in. Or I don't see the gum. And they can say all that they want. But remember, it's there. Okay? But the top JFK researchers, they won't dispute me because they know it's the truth. They know it's the facts. They know this. They all seen my research. But I guarantee you, probably some of them, if you ask them who's Leroy Blevins, they're going to say, well, I don't know who he is. But they all know me. They all see my research. I send it to every one of them. I've talked to them on the phone. Okay. I even talked to people that was in the news media. Like I said, even InfoWars. Okay. Somebody from there, he said he was following me for the past couple years and he liked my research that I've done about the gunman on the rooftop of the county records building, finding that gunman. Okay, they know. The reason why they don't bring it out, I don't know why. Maybe because they don't want the truth to be told? Or is it maybe they don't want to be saying, hey, we was wrong? Okay, but to me, the way I look at it, if you're wrong, admit it. Nothing wrong with that. If you're right, admit you're right as well. But don't let that stop you from getting the truth out. Hey, if I was wrong about something and I see somebody found something that's very important, I would say, hey, you know what? I was wrong about that because you got to see this. You got to see this because it's all about the truth. It doesn't matter about who was right and who was wrong. That's a key fact. It's never a matter about that or who came out with this or who came out with that. As long as the facts get out there. Just like me, I tell them, hey, we can go 50-50 on this. I've done the research. Let's bring it out. They still don't want to do it because they will still have to admit they was wrong. Who cares if you're wrong or right? It doesn't matter. Just as long as the evidence is out there, as long as people knows the truth, that's what matters. That's what matters. So I wanted to make this video here and show you, talk about this a little bit because, I've been getting emails after emails and comments and stuff, about this. And that's a good question. Why don't people dispute me? Especially top researchers or even, you know, TV shows or anything. Why don't they dispute me? Which is, a real good question. Thank you, and don't forget that like button. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to tell your friends about us. Share this video on your social medias, on Facebook, Twitter, on any other accounts, so other people know this information. Thank you, and you have a pleasant day.